All right, this meeting of the Bellevue School District Board of Directors for May 1st, 2025 is now called to order. And we will start with our roll call.
Phil Block.
Carolyn Watson.
Marta Trilles, Monica Webster.
Jay Norris.
Kelly Aramaki.
Okay, next we have the introduction of the student or students. Mr. Harrison is.
Thank you, President Watson. We are honored tonight with two students from Bellevue Big Picture School. They're both juniors. We have Tanishka Gangadharan and Alexa Colas, and again, both 11th graders from the wonderful Big Picture School. So welcome, and I think they're ready to lead us in the pledge and the land acknowledgement.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, land acknowledgement. Yeah.
That we are on the indigenous land of the Coast Salish peoples, who include the Duwamish, Muckleshoot, and Snoqualmie peoples. We thank these caretakers of this land who have lived and continue to live here since time immemorial. We reflect on the historic context that brings us to reside on this land and accept responsibility to interrupt erasure. We commit to an ongoing partnership with the Snoqualmie tribe as we listen to, learn from, and lead with their guidance.
Okay, and then next it's time for you to tell us anything you'd like to tell us.
That's good. Hello, everyone. My name is Alexa Colas, and I'm joined with Tanishka Gangadharan Lata. We are students from Big Picture representing our school's green team. In this club, we normally host hands-on workshops spreading awareness of topics like the impacts of fast fashion on the environment or the importance of upcycling. We also host an annual Earth Day fair to highlight an environmental issue in our local community.
This year, we decided to elevate the impact of our message by hosting the fair for an entire school day, kicking off with a guest speaker and moving students through a series of workshops to educate about water conservation and various other topics. Alexa and I played a vital role in leading these activities. I helped arrange the guest speaker that initiated our event, and Alexa was a member of the Rain Garden Build Challenge group.
Our inspiration for this event was largely tied to the recent YMCA Earth or Environmental Symposium hosted at UW, which our team attended in March. It was fascinating to learn about the work of environmental groups in the Puget Sound region. The symposium led us through a series of exciting interactive workshops, which encouraged our own team to take action and create similar interactive sessions for our school. And just in time, as Earth Day was approaching, and the Earth Day Fair was the perfect place to execute our ideas on a big school-wide level. One of the most successful workshops was the Rain Garden Build Challenge workshop, where we explained the importance of rain gardens in filtering out polluted water and had the students create their own miniature rain garden in a mason jar. We first implored students to think about the various ways water can get polluted, prompting them to recognize the magnitude of unknowing damage their actions do to the environment, specifically with water pollution. After, they competed in creating the most efficient water filtration system with materials that Green Team provided, such as charcoal, sand, pebbles, and a mason jar. Not only did they get to build their own system, we also gave them several small call to action steps to decrease their individual pollution on the water. This activity successfully engaged students through competition of who can get the cleanest water, which flowed nicely into the educational content we presented.
Our guest speaker, Mr. Kent Chappell from Oxbow Farms, helped commence the fair and provided examples of water conservation in action, but also ways students can drive their mission. Introducing us to sustainable farming practices, Kent Chappell spoke about the most important water-wise factors Oxbow considers to keep the soil and surrounding ecosystems balanced with their water intake. He emphasized the importance of strategic planting and responsible irrigation in using water safely and efficiently in the real world. These practices were not only applied to Oxbow's farm, but our very own school garden, where we would like to implement these considerations. Kent also brought irrigation equipment used in the farm that were designed to protect living creatures in the Snoqualmie River from getting into the water pipes. Although people who sat in the front row of the demonstration may have gone splashed, The leaking hoses and filters exemplified how easily water gets wasted and implores us to do a better job of conserving this natural resource. Aside from the implementation of environmentally safe water practices, Kent shared about his career journey and experiences as an education program manager, as well as the variety of jobs that operate to maintain the Oxbow nonprofit organization. Many students grew deeply invested in environmental sustainability during the session, and some even asked for the opportunity to intern with Oxbow to take their interests further. The guest speaker appearance was an incredible experience that informed us about water practices in large-scale farming and how we, as high school students, can help drive Oxbow's mission to create an environmentally sustainable region.
This year was the first time our Green Team Club hosted an Earth Day Fair as a school day-long event. Our tenuous planning process and tiring efforts to execute this event were incredibly rewarding, and we enjoyed spreading awareness school-wide. We are proud to be recognized by our school and district and hope to make it happen again next year.
Environmental efforts are often hard to take seriously because no one seems to understand how small steps can make a difference. But by providing these hands-on experiences, students at our school were able to understand the problem deeper and walk out of school that day with increased fervor towards environmentalism. Thank you for having us today, and we hope you found our event interesting.
Thank you for informing us about your environmental work. That's fantastic. Thank you. All right. Next, we go on to acknowledgements. All right, here we go. This month is Asian American and Native Hawaiian Pacific Islander Month. It is Jewish American Heritage Month, Mental Health Awareness Month, Military Appreciation Month, National Physical Education and Sport Month. The first, that's today, is School Principal Day. Tomorrow is National School Lunch Hero Day. Then from the 5th to the 9th, we have National Teacher Appreciation Week. On the 5th, we also have Cinco de Mayo. On the 7th, we have National School Nurse Day. On the 9th, we have School Communications Day. The 11th is Mother's Day. And the 12th is Vesak Day. And that's the first half of May. All right. All right, so next we have the approval of the agenda for this meeting. Could I have a motion to approve the?
I move to approve the agenda for this meeting.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Is there any discussion? Okay. In that case, I'm going to call the votes. All those in favor of approving the agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That's everyone. So I think we can say that passed. The motion passed. 1.8 says new agenda item. What is that then? Ignore it. Okay. All right. Crossing that off. Okay. Now we have the review the consent agenda, and we didn't get a chance on Monday, and I just want to call your attention. I was a little confused about how it looked on the staff travel report. And it turns out I just inquired, and we're just approving that first item for the travel that's coming up. The others, just for your information. Okay. So with that said, can we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Okay. So we have a motion and a second. All those in favor of approving the consent agenda, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
All right, I heard everyone, so that passes. And we are now on to 3, superintendent updates.
Great. Thank you so much. I've got a few things I wanted to share with the community today. Let's see if I can get this to work. Great. As you can see from the list of acknowledgements, so many things that we're celebrating in our community. You talked about Jewish American Heritage Month, Asian American, Native Hawaiian, Pacific Islander Heritage Month, and then our amazing students. I mean, this is just a sample of the Earth Day, Earth Month celebrations that are happening all over the district. And so lots of great and exciting things happening in the district this month. One of the things that happened just this past week was the Korean consulate of Seattle had a grand opening for their new Office of Korean Education, which they opened in Bellevue, just about a mile from the district office. And so I got to go and help them with the unveiling and give a few remarks, but they are very excited about the Korean program that we've started here in Bellevue. They're excited to support the Korean program here in Bellevue, and they're hoping to grow partnership between our region and South Korea, including sending teachers back and forth between the two countries, having kids go back and forth. And so we're very excited about this partnership that we're developing with South Korea, particularly through the consulate here in Seattle. Related to that, they have asked me to represent the Bellevue School District at a convening for APEC in 2 weeks. And so in 2 weeks, the Korean consulate is going to be sending me to Jeju Island in South Korea to present at the Asia Pacific Economic Cooperation Conference, which is cool. They said I represented the United States, but I said, how about I just represent the Bellevue School District? So just representing the Bellevue School District, but they want me to talk about all of the things that we're working on in innovation here in Bellevue, global language learning. They really want to learn about kind of beloved community and how we're supporting students of very diverse backgrounds and abilities. Tonight, we have some folks that are going to give public comment about inclusion in special education, and they have lots of questions about how we in the United States work with kids with special needs and how we build out inclusive programming. And so I'll get to talk a little bit about that, as well as kind of our commitment to accessibility. So I'm honored to do that. Just so people know, it is being funded by the consulate. So it is not, there's no general ed funds or any animals harmed. Everything is going to be fine. But it's an honor to be able to represent the Bellevue School District in this way. Earth Day, just to reiterate, the kids are so incredible and they are on fire about protecting our planet. And I've said this before, but it gives me so much hope when I think about how much kids care about things that are outside of themselves. And these are just some pictures from Newport Heights, Stevenson, Sherwood Forest, Bellevue Big Picture, and Tyee. Kids all over the school district are finding ways to talk about environmental sustainability. They are the hope of our future for sure. A couple of legislative update slides that I wanted to share with the community. In general, so the legislative session is over. I'm still tired. I have been up every night watching the House and the Senate debate the budget, all of the issues around taxes, no taxes. They had to cut billions of dollars out of their budget, and yet they were so committed to trying to find ways to support public education as much as they possibly could. I would say for Bellevue, we have a somewhat mixed outcome from the legislative session. We were asking for, as a state, $1 to $2 billion in special education. They're giving us about $308 million. So we were hoping for about 7 or 8 million for Bellevue School District. We're going to get a little over 1 million. So hardly enough, especially when we have a $35 million special education budget deficit. And so, but they did some other things. They lowered the threshold for safety net, which, if you know what that means, it's a good thing for us. For kids who have more expensive costs for their education, we can ask for more money. They maintain national board stipends, and Bellevue, we've got the highest number and percentage of national board certified teachers anywhere. I think we're like in the top 5 in the country. So that's a huge deal for us and for our educators, and it honors their excellence. They are giving cost of living adjustments. They added $81 million for MSOCs. Again, we asked for $1 to $2 billion. We were hoping for $3 or $4 million from the state for material supplies and operating costs. We're getting about $500,000, so not nearly enough. They put $137 million into local effort assistance, and I just want to include that because the Bellevue School District does not get any local effort assistance. This is for districts who cannot raise the same amount of money that we can in our local levy. But Bellevue really advocated hard for local effort assistance to be put into the budget. And so it's not enough, and we've let them know that, but it is a start to support districts that have lower property values. As a surprise, they put into their budget $500 per student Oh, no, sorry. The $500 per student in levy lift. So our voters vote for levies all the time. We are not able to collect as much as our voters have approved. And so the legislature passed a bill that would allow us to collect, starting next year, $500 more per student, which is um, for next year will only be about half because we can get it starting January, $5 million for next school year. It'll be 10 million for the following year. It's very, very good news. And then the surprise that we got was that the legislature put into their budget a $50 per student kind of bonus for this school year. So it's for the current school year that they would pay out towards the end of this year around July to just help districts with their fund balance. So that gives us about $1 million. All of that, good and bad, is dependent on whether the governor approves the budget. And so he's committed to going line by line to decide what he wants to approve and not approve. So some of these things could be very good for Bellevue, but it all depends on whether the governor is going to approve it and sign it. And so I will be watching every single day, checking for updates to look and see what he's signing. But it's a mixed bag, some good news and some where we didn't get as much as we were hoping for. But the bottom line is, I just want to end this slide by saying we are so grateful for the leaders in our city who are advocating for us. Director Aras is our legislative representative. And so I just want to say thank you so much because we have ideas, we call her, she calls legislators and makes the connection. I'm going to talk about one particular bill on the next slide, but we could never not have done it without Director Aras kind of advocating for us. Director Block as well is our ledge kind of backup, and they tag team together. Representative Callan, she is a huge, I mean, she doesn't even represent Bellevue, but she sponsored an amendment to a bill that is going to be extremely helpful for us. Senator Slatter stood up and spoke on the floor on behalf of the Bellevue School District and has been a huge champion for us. Senator Wellman, Representative Tai, Representative Zahn, Representative Wallen, Representative Sal Houdin. Our representatives are pretty amazing. They fight very hard for us and they fight for kids across the state. So I just want to say thank you to them and to these two here. As well as Jill Reagan from the BEA, who have been just going out there testifying. It's been quite amazing. Testifying while on the street, carrying signs. I don't know how you do it. It was really awesome and amazing. So we're a really incredible community and team that supports education. I want to show you just a couple of things about timing because there's some money that could be coming depending on the governor signing, but it's all about timing. So the money that kicks in starting at the beginning of the school year is special education and MSOCs. So $1.3 million for special education, 0.5 for MSOCs, but we don't get that, of course, in September. That's doled out every single month. So it's going to be like $1 here or $1 there. It's really not going to be a lot of money right away. Senate Bill 5412 is the bill that Representative Callan and Director Aras and our team worked on that basically says a school district that goes into binding conditions can sell property and use that as a one-time to help restore the fund balance. That is a huge help to the Bellevue School District. And so I'm very thankful for that. We're just waiting for the governor to sign it. Once he signs it, then we're going to be able to take action on that. So but it takes 12 to 24 months to process things like that. And so the money from that will not come anytime soon, but it is something that will help us in the nearish future. And then the levy bill, it's $10 million over the course of the whole school year, but it won't kick in until January of this next year. And so for this next school year, it's about half, about $5 million. But we don't get any levy money until April. So even though we're starting to collect it in January, we won't actually see any of that money until April. All of that to say, there's some good news. If the governor signs these bills, it's still going to take time. And so next year, we're going to have to be frugal. And so I hate to say that, but we need to do some smart planning. We need to be as fiscally frugal as possible next year. And then we need to have a good plan for what we want to build kind of moving into the following year. This slide is just, I mean, in addition to all the adults that are working hard on behalf of our school district, I mean, we had so many kids go down to the legislature to advocate for a whole bunch of different things, but Woodridge fourth graders, students from our Evergreen transitions advocating for special education, Latino Heat from Sammamish went down, Tilica Middle School students went down. I think they helped kill the cell phone bill, by the way. So I'm just going to say they were going down there to advocate for the beavers and for environmental sustainability, but what they were able to accomplish was helping to kill the cell phone bill. So I think they feel quite accomplished for doing that. There's a picture there of Sabina Kolovansky, who I joined her family in going to Temple in October, which I really appreciate. But this kid is co-sponsored a bill on increasing media literacy and civic engagement in schools. I mean, it's really remarkable. The bill didn't make it through the legislature this year, but she's learning kind of the process, and I'm sure she's going to come back next year. And then Director Block's child, Nate, and Conrad, who's a student at Bellevue High School, they're part of this Washington Student Legislative Advocacy Committee, and they were down there as well. So student leadership is a thing in Bellevue, and we have a lot of kids that did a really amazing work in advocating for the school district in Olympia. This past week has been kind of the week of auctions and fundraisers. There's another one coming up for the Bellevue Boys and Girls Club, but this past 2 weeks, we got to support the Bellevue Schools Foundation, Bellevue LifeSpring, and Rainier Athletes. Those are 3 partners who do so much for our school district and for our kids. And I just want to say thank you to those organizations and to all of the community who have gone out to support these organizations. LifeSpring, of course, they help with basic needs for kids. They support families with rent assistance. They provide vouchers for food during breaks. Bellevue Schools Foundation helps to fund mental health for us, STEM. They provide a lot of resources for schools. And then Rainier Athletes is our mentorship partner. They bring mentors every single week to work with kids from 5th grade all the way to graduation to ensure that kids graduate and have a great life after high school. So thank you to our partners. And then last but not least, of the May staff celebrations, today is School Principals Day. So I just want to honor our school principals. It is a very hard job to lead a school building. And we have some of the best in the country. Tomorrow's School Lunch Hero Day. And then next week, of course, is Teacher Appreciation Week, School Nurse Day. So a lot of appreciation for staff. PTSAs are ramping up to do all of this work to just put to love on their staffs. And I just want to say thank you to our staff. And thank you to the PTSAs for all of your support for all of the educators in our system. And with that, that is my update.
Okay, thank you. Now we have public comment. And so I'm going to let Chief of Staff Harrison introduce the public comment.
Thank you, President Watson. We have a full house tonight. We have 10 speakers, which, as you know, is your maximum. 9 of them are here in person, 1 online. Why don't we start with your guidelines, and then we'll talk about the process and get this thing going.
Right. Well, we have the guidelines up on the slide, but the important things to know is everybody gets just 2 minutes and there'll be a timer. And then we also ask that everyone follows the same standard of civility the board imposes on itself. And that means we would not have comments that are libelous or slanderous, an unwarranted invasion of privacy, nothing obscene or indecent pursuant to the Federal Communications Act or any rule or regulation of the Federal Communications Commission, nothing that violates school policy, school district policy or procedure related to harassment, intimidation, bullying, or discrimination, nothing that incites an unlawful act on the school premises or violates a lawful school regulation, and nothing that creates a material and substantial disruption of the orderly operation of the school board meeting. But outside of that, we'd love to hear what you have to say.
Thank you, President Watson. While we'll get the names here, we're working on it. But in the meantime, just a reminder, as President Watson says, each speaker gets 2 minutes. There is a clock that'll show up in the top left-hand corner. Be cognizant of your time because it starts ticking down. And then as the person before you winds down, if you could start to make your way up here to the podium, that would be great. And the first thing we want you to do is state your name for the record. So I think we are ready to proceed, and our first public commenter is Claire.
Sounds good. Thank you. All right. My name is Claire Draw, and I'm a special education teacher at Newport High School. I'll be honest, Dr. Aramaki, hearing that you feel part of the district's focus is on inclusion and access, it's really hard to hear because that's not what it feels like to be a special education teacher looking towards next year. This is my 8th year in Bellevue, and I've spent the last 7 years at Newport High School with the team there, making Newport an inclusive home school where students who live in our neighborhoods can go to school with peers and excel, finding greater independence. This spring, without explanation or warning beyond budget, we were told we would be losing our inclusive program designation. This move will increase our caseloads by a minimum of 9 students, meanwhile reducing our FTE by 1.4 special education teachers. To be clear, Newport has been working without a center-based program for the last 6 years and with an inclusive mindset. Only 4 of those years have been supported by the district and caseload CBA caps. As we move forward in this new space with less funding and significantly higher caseloads, we ask that we be allowed to continue as we have for the last 6 years as a neighborhood school serving students in general education spaces to the greatest extent possible. Our building does not want to go back to self-contained programs or caseloads, because at Newport, all students are served by all staff, and that is a commitment that our general education teachers have made, as well as our special education teachers. However, at 5.6 FTE, we will not be able to provide all of the co-taught spaces or support to our general education colleagues that we have for the last 7 years, and that we did this year with 7 FTE. We could reasonably do it with the 6 FTE that we requested, but at 5.6, we simply cannot. However, we will continue to do what is best for students and ask for permission from the district to continue to be a model of inclusion to the fullest extent possible. Thank you for your time.
Perfect.
Thank you, directors and Dr. Aramaki, for your time. My name is Steph, and I'm a parent at Somerset Elementary. I'm here today to share my safety concerns about next year's 8:05 start at Somerset. BSD's Transportation FAQs website states that unsafe walking conditions or hazards include traffic speed, excessive traffic volume, lack of a walking path, lack of a stoplight to cross, and potentially dangerous animals. Somerset already checks all of these boxes, and even more so next year because of BSD's decision. We have limited to no sidewalks in the 1 mile walk radius, no traffic lights, only 2 crosswalks around the school, and only 1 4-way stop. There is limited visibility because we are on a hill with windy roads, blind curves, steep slopes, and few overhead streetlights. We also had a coyote attack students at one of our bus stops in March this year. This earlier start adds dark to this already unsafe equation, since our kids will be walking almost an hour before the sun rises at 7:57 in December and January. Compounding these hazards, the district is increasing traffic volume in our neighborhood because 3 schools within a 1 mile radius, Somerset, Newport High School, and Forest Ridge, will have 8 to 8:15 a.m. bell times. This number goes up to 4 when Big Picture moves to Eastgate. Traffic will also increase when construction starts on the 10 acres in Somerset that BSD is selling. We will have more drivers rushing to school or work on icy roads at the same time our youngest learners are walking to school or to their bus stops. Taken all together, this creates dangerous conditions for our kids. My question is, what is the value of safety, and is this risk the district is creating worth the $200,000 in anticipated savings? I know that BSD is working to cut $20 million next year, and I recognize that every dollar counts, but this decision disappointingly tells us that BSD is putting savings before safety. If this is not the case, there is time to please reconsider this decision and keep Somerset's 9:05 start. Thank you for your time.
Hi, I'm Kelly Wookie, President of Somerset PTSA. I'm here as a concerned parent and on behalf of the PTSA board to address the safety concerns with the 8:05 start for Somerset. Somerset Elementary sits at 784 feet above sea level, which is 400 feet higher than the average elevation of the rest of the elementary schools in the district. This key differentiation should impact the decision-making process of the 8:05 start time. Somerset's elevation creates a microclimate not experienced by the rest of the district. During the late fall, winter, and early spring months, Somerset has more snow, ice, and fog than the rest of the district. Somerset is also a neighborhood on a steep hill. Many of the neighborhood streets are not plowed and inaccessible for days at a time after a snowfall. Cars line the main roads because drivers know they will not be able to exit their streets for days when it snows. You have young elementary school students navigating windy, icy, and/or snow-covered streets before the sun even rises. Everyone in the district can encounter these hazards, but Somerset has more instances of these hazards. In addition to its microclimate, safe terrain, limited sidewalks, and zebra crossings. These hazards are not limited to the students who walk to school. Many kids take the bus, have to walk extra distances to meet their snow route bus. The cost savings not only affects bus riders, but also walkers and parents who make the decision to drive their students to school. And from what I've been told, a lot more parents are going to make the decision to drive their kids to school. Was Somerset students' safety a consideration in the decision-making process, or is the decision made without specifically looking at each school's circumstance? I reached out to John Harrison and Heather Sanchez for the safety study analysis or plan associated with the decision-making process. No report has been provided. I was told parents can make the decision to keep our kids home during inclement weather, and their absence will be excused.
Okay, thank you.
Hello, my name is Megha Mahale, and I'm an occupational therapist at BSD. I work with a fabulous team of occupational and physical therapists, and I'm here to speak about the impact of high caseloads on the services and supports we provide to our students and buildings. One of the fundamental pillars of what occupational and physical therapists do in the school system is collaborate with school teams to be able to equip them to support students in their school environment. Without this crucial collaboration, our expertise can only do so much to support a student's progress. With the high caseloads our team has been experiencing for the past couple of years, our schedule cannot accommodate the flexibility that is required to maintain the collaborative relationships with the school teams that support students day in and day out. Without this collaboration, therapeutic practice is limited to my sessions with the student, when in reality, they need to be practicing these skills consistently in the classroom in order to generalize what they learn in therapy into their day-to-day lives and classroom routine. With less OT support, children with fine motor challenges may struggle to complete basic classroom tasks. With less physical therapy support, students with mobility impairments could face greater difficulties navigating their school environment. My deepest desire for my students is that they succeed and feel successful in everything they do at school. What we do as therapists is important. We teach practical skills, offer a perspective that considers the unique person, task, and environment. We broaden the understanding of and support student regulation. We problem solve environments to make them more conducive for learning, and so much more. These are skills that will serve students not just in school, but in their future endeavors and their relationships. Thank you so much.
Checking. Good afternoon, members of the board. My name is Hannah, and I'm a parent at Somerset. I come here today to voice my deep concerns regarding the new start time of 8:05 next year at Somerset Elementary. While I understand that the district is facing budget cuts and the bus route changes is estimated to save $200,000 per year, I strongly believe that cost savings should not come at a cost of safety for our children and community. As you know, Somerset Elementary topography is unique from other BSD schools in that it sits on top of a pretty steep hill. The roads to and from school can be treacherous depending on weather conditions. My family lives within a 1-mile radius of the school, so we are within walking distance. However, due to numerous safety concerns, we choose to primarily drive, especially during the winter months. Most of our walking route does not have sidewalks and have very few street lights available. During the winter months, with less daylight, rain, snow, and ice, these hazards are compounded. The earlier start time is adding fuel to the safety fire in that children will now be walking to school in the dark between December and February, when road conditions are most dangerous. Low visibility, snow and ice, steep hills with no sidewalks, and walking elementary school children is a recipe for tragic accidents waiting to happen. While I understand the need for cost savings, the health and safety of our children should always be our top priority. One can argue that the probability of accidents are low, even at the earlier start time. However, we should not have to wait for a tragedy to occur before we can do something about it. It would be too late then. If we can take action to eliminate a foreseeable risk, no matter how small, we should take it to protect the most precious members of our society. I implore you to reconsider the impacts of this decision. Is $200,000 worth the very real risk to the physical safety of our children? Please keep the current start time of 9:05. Thank you.
I need to push the button. No, it's already pushed. Look at that. Good evening, directors and leadership. My name is Melissa Taylor. I am the classroom-based student services representative on the executive board of BEA Leadership, and I'm speaking tonight on behalf of Sammamish High School educators who have shared concerns around prioritizing school-based staffing in the district's restoration plan. The photography teacher at Sammamish, who has gone above and beyond by taking on 1.2 FTE for over a year, is now being told his position is cut to 0.7 next year. He raised valid concerns about class size and available computers, and the response was to add more tech, not more staffing. This sends a clear and troubling message that equipment is prioritized over educators. The ELA department at Sammamish has been told to collapse their AP literature classes into 2 sections of 42 students each, rather than 3 more reasonable sections of 28, which are still above the CBA target of 26. That's a 50% increase in grading load and directly limits teachers' ability to provide meaningful instruction and feedback to students. PE and health staffing is also taking a hit. The department's FTE is being cut by 0.7. Class sizes for next year are projected at between 40 and 50 students. When we compare this to other schools in the district, such as Bellevue High, their class sizes are within just 2 students of CBA targets. Why is Sammamish, our Title I school, high school, being left behind? When representatives have met with leadership, they were told that Sammamish would be staffed at 100%, but 45 to 50 students in a single class cannot possibly represent equitable or correct staffing. If equity is a district value, then staffing equity must be reflected in the restoration plan. This means putting real educators in classroom, not devices. It means giving all students, especially those at Title I schools, the same access to instruction, feedback, and individual support as students anywhere else in the district. Please make school-based staffing your first priority in your restoration plan. Teachers and students deserve nothing less. Thank you.
Other way, okay. Thank you for having me. My name is Mindy Carroll, and I'm a parent at Interlake. My youngest daughter has been a BSD student for 14 years now, preschool, then Olympic and Pacific classrooms. Like many Olympic and Pacific classmates, she's received a variety of services over the years, both from talented school specialists and private providers, PT, OT, ABA, and speech therapy. One of my parenting jobs is just coordinating these care so that her private services complement the in-school services. Another part is helping her practice her skills at home so that she gets the maximum benefit from her school and her private specialist sessions. Most of our kids don't like to tell us much about their school day, but my daughter can't tell me much about her school day. If she misses specialist minutes, I don't know that that's the reason for a slowdown in her progress. If something is going poorly with her school specialist, I'm not updated quickly. I don't know what skills we need to practice at home, and I can't strategize with her private special service providers based on where she is succeeding or struggling at school. All of this matters a lot with a low verbal child who is very selective about where she displays competence or feigns inability. Knowing what she can do and what she should be asked to do requires frequent communication with all of the adults she works with. Regular verbal or written summaries are a standard part of my daughter's private therapy services. Another standard part of her private care is notice when she will miss a scheduled service, along with a plan for at-home activities to help her maintain those skills during the gap. That communication is critical to supporting her treatment at home. Our BSD specialists should have that same ability to communicate with parents. Time to do this should be built into their caseloads. This basic level of specialist and parent communication is critical to making their services effective. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Amy Lennox, and I'm a co-chair of the Bellevue PTSA Council Special Services Committee, which covers IEPs, 504s, and other areas students face barriers in accessing their education. I'm also a parent of a medically complex student with additional diagnoses, including ADHD and autism. The IEP process includes collecting data, determining goals, determining services, and implementing the plan. Wash, rinse, repeat. I believe in this approach. In my role, I talk to a lot of parents. I want to share concerns I hear about. From the outside, we cannot see the district gathering relevant data from which to make appropriate goals and make reasonable plans to address our students' needs. There's a lack of accountability and trust. Many parents I speak to are concerned about retaliation from reporting problems. I hear that accommodations, modifications, and services are missed. Schools start the year without a plan to address services that were known about at the end of the prior year. Schools don't inform parents of missed service minutes, failures to follow plans, or that students should be getting compensatory minutes. And schools are not following the HIB reporting process. Parents clearly love the staff they know work well with their student. I hear wonderful stories. I want our district to retain the best staff. I request the district track IEP service minutes, modifications, and 504 IEP accommodations, make that information available to parents, and arrange the appropriate compensatory minutes get addressed instead of ignoring problems. I hear schools have different issues, but I don't believe the data is gathered to show the district where problems lie. Our district needs a way to hold staff accountable when plans are not followed. We have some great staff that have overflowing plates. We need to be able to identify where supports need to be added versus any staff that just refuse to do the appropriate modifications and accommodations. Because I assure you that some general education teachers are uninterested in following some plans. When gen ed teachers and admins do not support our students in appropriate ways, learning is stunted and specialist minutes you do pay for will be wasted. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Reagan Lorden, and I have Jill Rock with me here. We come to you as leaders of the BEA with comments from our members on their concerns about the future. These comments are representative of many educators across all disciplines and fields. As educators are reviewing next year's projected class sizes, we feel it's critical to ask the board to help set realistic expectations for our community moving forward. We are committed to doing our best, but everyone who's ever hosted a birthday party knows that when there are more people in the room, more needs come up and more attention is required, and more time is necessary to meet those needs. With significantly higher class sizes on the horizon, families need to be prepared for what this will mean. Responses to emails may be delayed, late work may take longer to process, grading projects will take more time, one-on-one connections with students may suffer, differentiated instruction will be more difficult, specific and individualized feedback will be harder to provide. We aren't saying to lower expectations, but to be honest about what's coming. Our teachers will continue showing up, working hard and supporting students. But the reality is, with next year's staffing exceeding contract targets, teachers will be overextended, and it's the students that will feel this impact the most. We understand that these staffing cuts are part of the district's financial recovery plan, but what we can't accept is leaving the responsibility of explaining the consequences to families solely on the shoulders of educators and admin. We urge the board to take the lead in clearly communicating the practical impact of these changes. Dr. Aramarki's financial presentation was clear. We're simply asking that same clarity be extended to the families we serve. We will do our part, and we ask the board to do yours. Thank you.
Our last speaker is Christy Schlesinger, and I believe she's online. And Jess, can you see if we can elevate Christy?
Christy, we've unmuted your mic. If you want to go ahead and start.
Hi, can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay, great. Good evening, board directors, Dr. Aramaki, and community members. I'm Christy Schlesinger, and I have 2 students in the district. As the legislative session wraps up, I want to take a moment to thank our incredible community for showing up and speaking out, advocating for our students, and to fully fund K-12 education across the state. Your voices really are making a difference. While we didn't get everything we wanted, it will be a little boost for next year. I also want to extend my deep appreciation to Dr. Aramaki and Jane Aris for the tireless hours they've invested on behalf of our students and families. It has been wonderful to continue collaborations with Jill Rock, BEA, our PTAs, and 5 Eastside school communities over the last few months. All this advocacy and leadership behind the scenes, whether in Olympia or here in our own district, make a real difference, and we see you. Thank you. As we brace for difficult budget reductions next year, I urge us to keep focused on what matters most, the foundational skills every student needs to thrive in life. Chief among those is literacy. Our reading scores are improving, but also show that we have urgent work to do. And yet, professional development around evidence-based literacy instruction is currently optional. That's not going to change the needle. If we truly want to support students, especially those farthest from educational justice, we really need an urgent focus on early intervention and data-driven MTSS. That means committing to consistent, in-depth literacy training for our educators. It means investing in our teachers so they can reach every student using UDL with the tools and support they need. Let's ensure that even in a time of scarcity, we are investing in what matters most, preparing our students for a future of opportunity. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you to everybody who came to give us a public comment. And I think that concludes the public comments for tonight. And we're going to go on for our reports. And our report for tonight is on reimagining middle schools. So I guess we call on staff to introduce that report.
While Dr. Jackson is coming up, maybe I'll just make a couple of comments just in light of the our BEA leadership's ask to manage expectations on behalf of the staff. I will just start by saying what you're going to hear about Reimagine Middle Schools is really exciting. We've got some great things happening in our middle schools. We've got some teachers and staff who are on fire about the work that's happening with our middle schools. But I just, next year, it is going to be a challenging year with less staff, with more kids in each class. And so first, if any staff are listening to this conversation and this report, I just want them to know that we're excited about the work of Reimagine Middle Schools, and we're excited in part because it's in this kind of invitational, inspirational space. We are not in a place right now as a district where we can mandate kind of big new initiatives for all staff. And so when Dr. Jackson talks about the work that's being done, I just want our staff to hear that we are inspired by their inspiration. We're excited about the work that's happening and popping up all over the district, and we want to continue to support that work. And so next year, as we kind of look to what's next for Reimagine Middle Schools, the kind of the preview is that we are looking to continue to inspire our middle school staff to keep up the good work and to try out new things, and that we're going to be there supporting them along the way. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Jackson, Director of Teaching and Learning.
Thank you. And thank you for that preamble. I'm Dr. Jackson, Director of Teaching and Learning, and excited to move into the role of Executive Director of Teaching and Learning next year. A few areas that I do want to cover in this presentation that's also associated to the report is I'll share some context and background of the 2024-2025 Reimagine Middle Schools implementation team and the work that spread throughout Bellevue School District. I'll also share some of the instructional journey from the lens of the implementation team and also from the lens of educators and a few students. I'll address how this has met our annual plan goals for preparing people and systems. I'll also share examples, a few examples, and lastly, I'll articulate our next steps. So a little bit of context here. Reimagine Middle Schools has been a multi-year initiative based on student needs, collaboration with students, families, and educators. The design teams that began, some say 2020, some say 2021, others say 2022. The design teams reviewed trends from panorama surveys, and what those essentially expressed in other areas as well was that students were seeking a sense of belonging in middle schools, and they were seeking engaging learning that was a little bit different from what we have seen as 7 periods, and that was they just wanted a little bit disruption to add some joy in the learning experience. So there was other areas of data that was reviewed: student shadow learnings, empathy interviews, focus groups, and listening sessions. And through consensus making, well, first, looking at this data, the design teams came up with 4 priority areas. One was teacher teaming, the second was extended class time, the third was advisory, and the fourth was problem-based learning. Through consensus making from the design teams, they decided that the most promising, rewarding, and challenging change would result from implementing problem-based learning and advisory-based learning in Bellevue School District middle schools, along with shifting from the design phases to the implementation phase. And so that's where you see this, some of the background. 2022 and 2023 through 2023, 2024, year 1 and year 2, they look similar, but the outcomes are a little bit different. The goal was to serve the developmental, social, emotional, and academic needs of middle school students. And ultimately, where we got to the outcome of 2023, 2024 was to define advisory-based middle school and problem-based learning in Bellevue School District, including considerations for implementation. And year 3 is where I was able to step in and lead and help organize an implementation team. We found a lot of success and excitement in the work and saw so many areas of excitement in Bellevue School District. And the 2 annual plan goals was to prepare the system to implement advisory-based learning and begin initial implementation of problem-based learning. So just to see this in a framework, year 1, we call that the research and co-design phase. Year 2, that's the co-design phase, and year 3, initial implementation. Another timeline here, this is where we have seen the implementation plan, and of course there's other areas of that with negotiations, but our PBL launch, we have had a few launches this year, and I'll be sharing a brief about that here as we get closer to it. So some may wonder why initial implementation, and it's a commitment to support advisory-based middle schools. Reallocation of resources was something that was identified, and an acknowledgement to address stakeholder concern around student connections to their learning and also social emotional learning in middle schools. And so problem-based learning school would require structures for collaboration, curriculum shifts, professional learning, and community building opportunities. So a few accomplishments that I see as areas that are addressed to the annual plan goals and the report from last year that I identified our areas of focus was the implementation team launched this year, and we're still meeting and connecting. And we wanted to prepare the system and educators. We also wanted to provide professional learning. And I'll share a little bit about how that was launched and how we worked that through our system. And we wanted to develop materials and have small scale pilots. So major shout out to the members, myself, Tom Dunwald, Director of Educational Technology, Maria Frybros, Director of Student Services, Melanie McGee, Director of Program Management Office, Eric Sieberson, Curriculum Developer for Social Studies, Wendy Powell, Curriculum Developer for Social Emotional Learning. So if you went into any learning space, primarily in teaching and learning with our instructional technologists and our developers, or our certificated admin professional development, this was the essential question that you would see each learning session. And the question is, how will we build capacity and create conditions for increased student engagement and belonging? The engagement is situated right with our PBL and with what we see as Danielson Domain 3C, which is student engagement. And belonging, that's advisory, and that's where we would see our SEL. And so that was the focus of our professional learning throughout the school year, or throughout our school year. As we started to build out our learning plan, we did this in co-design. Our implementation team, along with our ITCLs and developers and our CERT admin, we were able to build our structure and to see what a scope and sequence would look like and how to successfully get to today. And also, one of the things that we wanted to make sure is that we would have some prototypes and tests. We wanted to try out, and this is where Dr. Aramaki helped us shift our thinking from having specific targets to really opening the door to innovation, and that's the encourage and celebrate risk-taking and try PBL in the classrooms. And that's where we were really living in excitement and having a lot of movement this school year. Early on, in early September, and I'll try to whiz through this just to capture some data. When I first began, I wanted to get a baseline assessment of how our ITCLs and developers, along with our CERT admin, how they were feeling about launching PBL and advisory. We knew that there had been years of design work, but how are we going to actually lead learning and focus on this? And so I just went to schools, connected with our ITCLs and developers, connected with our principals, had long meetings, short meetings, email correspondence. And what I received was a launch of excitement. 100% at the time of our CERT admin and ITCLs were either warm or hot. And the question was, are you warm, hot, or cold? And with it, and what does professional learning look like? And we started to build out our professional learning plan. And so there was 100% that identified a need for intentional professional learning. And that was fantastic because that moved us. And so quickly, I always feel that there's a necessary piece when launching an initiative or focusing on work and of this level of importance: student connection, student identity, problem-based learning. And when I served as a principal and assistant principal at Nathan L. High School, I had an advisory, I had a mentorship of all Black male students. And also the focus was identity development, empowerment, and connections, based off of them expressing that they didn't find their connections to the school community. And so I figured that that was necessary to share that, along with we were a problem-based learning school. And I wanted to bring that into our learning sessions while also sharing the challenges. As a teacher, I also had a challenge with shifting from bell-to-bell schedule to block schedule. As a principal, I moved our school around from block schedule to bell to make sure that we had advisory in our system. I was able to articulate the challenges of implementation, the challenges that happen when you have advisory. And what we learned was some of our educators wanted some, not just skills, but also some tools to launch advisory. And this helped us move and shift our ideas around to actually bring in plans to ensure our educators had the resources necessary. Professional learning for problem-based learning, but also the resources needed for advisory. And I felt that it was necessary to share this because the opportunities for students when they have that place that adults see them and know who they are and are connected to them is absolutely necessary for belonging and connectedness to learning, which ultimately leads to stronger academic outcomes. And this was the sell, and it led to strong professional development throughout our year. So small scale launches, this is what we felt we wanted to center our work around, was where could we find some small scale launches this year? So as mentioned, some of our educators wanted, what does an ABL yearly plan, advisory-based learning yearly plan look like? Because one of the challenges that I did express was when you have advisory or mentorship or whatever you might call it, it's hard to get up and get your tools ready when you have taught a class and to shift and to bring in resources to build connections with students. Some educators will just show up and that's easy because that's something that's normal to them. And some need a little bit of structure to help them. And so we just built a plan, a full year, a plan that had 4 sections of advisory each week. A shout out to Wendy Powell for actually being the heart and the mind for organizing this scope and sequence. Shout out to Eric Sieberson for leading the social studies district directed professional development focused on launching problem-based learning. And of course, Tillicum Middle School PBL experience and Odell Middle School PBL experience. I'll go a little bit into detail here as we get closer to our close. So the yearly plan did have our tie to our Danielson framework along with our SEL standards. We wanted to make sure that those were accessible to educators to see how they could lift the resources in their curriculum to support them as well. So it felt turnkey, but they can also live and exist in the work without feeling that they had to just find a new curriculum and it wasn't aligned and coherent throughout the school community. And so we've also shared this as well. Social Studies District Directed Professional Development. Through DDPD, there was an encouragement to have instructional shifts toward PBL for secondary social studies teachers, which could scale out to other content areas as well. And this was actually done yesterday. Connect social studies PBL design elements to Danielson criteria. The criteria are 2A, 2B, 3B, C, 3C, and 3D. Ensuring culture for learning, assessment, and building respectful and affirming environments. So one of the other areas is the Beaver project, which I have many students. I know I'm running out of time, but we had an opportunity to learn about some innovation that was happening at Tillicum Middle School when a few of the educators actually went to a CTE learning experience, and what they had picked up was a challenge in the environment. And they started to connect on this challenge and build out a curriculum, a problem-based learning curriculum to support students through essentially habitat, what's happening in the habitat, and to encourage students to get involved in governance. This is where Dr. Aramaki brought up the cell phone bill. The bill was actually supposed to be about the beavers, but students were so interested in the cell phone policy that they actually shifted their priorities. Either way, what came out of this was 2 podcast episodes, which was super cool and fun, and also for our Bellevue School District podcast, and also just a connection that educators had that they were inspired by. This began by them just coming up with their own ideas and coming to us and sharing with us what was happening. And this is essentially what was happening throughout our school district. Odell, they're preparing a system called Emerging Horizon, New Space and the Forces of Change, 3-subject cohort, which will focus on algebra, space, flight, and engineering, 4 common projects. This will be next year, and their launch they've began enrollment, and so their launch should begin this upcoming school year. And the excitement is just bringing accessibility and opportunity for many students to have rocketry and to partner with some of our outside companies, agencies as well that support this work. And that brings excitement because not every student has an opportunity to have rocketry, and this is a different way that they're working to implement that. Trying to move this to the next slide. Okay. All right, so this moves us to our next steps, which I really wanted to get to. So professional development, as Dr. Aramaki said, we have to be a little bit strategic next year. We're still focused on problem-based learning, aligning it to Danielson framework, a few areas that are specific here that are listed. And additionally, I did want to mention goal-setting process for principals, assistant principals, and teachers takes a step toward focusing on student growth in a unit, which is opportune for PBL because PBL units can be tied to this, which can be tied to also the equity imperative, which can also be tied to the teacher goal setting and principal goal setting as well. So it could be nested throughout the work. And the assessments could be nested as well. Student growth can be nested. And so we're really excited about moving into that space next year for PBL. And ABL, we're continuing to build the system for student connections and learning, and developing pro-social behaviors, building executive functioning skills, fostering agency, and creating a sense of belonging. Last slide is implementation risks and challenges, resources and capacity. With limited resources, as Dr. Aramaki has expressed, we are building capacity with the time and resources we have. Lastly, professional development. Given required professional development and the training, limited time with existing structures, we will need to be strategic in our collaboration with building leaders and educators. Just lastly, shout out and much appreciation to all of our educators that took risks this year to try out things, build connections with students, try out our Character Strong implementation, try out PBL, just give it all their risks and get support from their school leaders, because that was the focus of the year. So thank you.
Okay, so now it's time for questions and reactions from the board. So would anybody like to raise their hand and go first? All right. Okay.
Thank you so much, Dr. Jackson. I know that you're fairly new to our district, but I really appreciate how you just jumped right into the work. And secondly, you know, I love that you engage the ITCLs and other staff around how they feel about the implementation. I think that that was really creative and important feedback that helps to inform the work. So I didn't know you were doing that, but thank you so much. I know that I asked a lot of questions on Monday, and I just have a couple. One of the things that I really appreciate the most about the PBL model are the peer-to-peer opportunities, especially since we've seen how much students have struggled returning and engaging in the classroom, both academically and socially after COVID. You know, it's beneficial to the well-being of all of our students to have a chance to work in groups and build on those collaboration skills. And that's what PBL is all about. With that, I just have a couple of wonderings. And this is a two-part question. First, I'm wondering, how does the reimagined school concept address the needs of our most marginalized students and families? And the second part of that question is, how are we engaging parents and guardians in supporting this work? Whether that's to, you know, build stronger relationships between the educators and the parents, or allowing an opportunity for parents to share their thoughts about what's working well around, you know, specific learning styles, or what have you, you know, for their kids, since they are the professionals, right? They are with the kids every day. And if they're engaged, they have feedback to share, and those are valuable insights that can help meet individual student needs. And then the last question that I had, as we know that the effectiveness of the advisory-based learning depends on the training, right, and support provided to our educators, as you spoke about, because we don't want to implement this poorly and cause it to have less desirable outcomes. And I am wondering if how we are supporting students who may struggle with this learning style and who might benefit from a more intrapersonal learning style, and how we are we supporting all learning styles in this space for students?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, who's next? I can be next. All right, I'll be next. So I'm just going to repeat a few highlights that I saw here. So in terms of the advisory, what I like the fact that you're talking about teaching some concrete things like pro-social behavior, executive function, and agency you called out. And but I do feel like the primary thing from my understanding of advisory is that relationship you would then build with the hopefully trusted adult, So I hope that you can do that even if it's just one day a week or something. I know we have to modify things because of resources. In terms of the project-based learning, I think in my experience, I may be wrong, but I think it sticks with kids more. What they learn stays with them a little more than some of the other ways of teaching. But what worries me about it, of course, as I said before, is the time, right? Because you need the time to create the units, the time to gather the resources, time in the classroom. And we know we're going into a phase where teachers are going to have less time. We have fewer curriculum developers to help with this. And I also worry with the time because sometimes it can be hard to hit outside benchmarks, right? Like whatever the state standards are to really construct those PBL units so that they hit what the kid's supposed to know that year or things like that. So you're well aware of all these issues, you're thinking about them, but it's just kind of sad that it's coming forward at a time when we're in a resource crunch. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right, next. Marta, Director Marta.
Yes. Thank you, Dr. Jackson. Thank you for doing this amazing work. And I am super excited about this initiative, but it's true that it's coming in a very not appropriate time, right? So I realize it's coming in a moment where the district is having serious budget challenges. The success of these initiatives relies on a strategic resources allocation, development of curriculum materials, extensive professional development, and a robust data-driven evaluation. I am wondering if we are still having the capacity to follow our original implementation plan, or if we need to revise it. If so, please share the plan with the students, families, and educators. I know that a lot of families, students, and the community have been involved. I really appreciate if they are on the loop. I am especially concerned about the teachers' workload for next year. Who will develop the materials and lead the professional development? The ability to still have building leaders promoting and guiding educators in the problem-based learning. I am getting the impression that we are shifting into a more inspirational model, as Dr. Aramaki explained us before that you were talking, where teachers passionate will have a chance to implement problem learning based in their class. If that is the case, I am worried about a potential lack of consistency among students and schools. We need to make sure that all the students, the ones that they are in the problem-based learning unit or no, receive high quality and engaging instruction.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, we always try to finish our thoughts, but yeah. Okay, who's next?
I guess it's my turn.
Sure.
So thank you,
Yeah.
Dr. Jackson.
Sure.
As I've stated on Monday, PBL is something that I think is a phenomenal tool to engage our students. And I appreciate our community calling it out and asking for that in our schools, for middle school, in that transitional phase where learning and growing is so challenging. And I also appreciate that they called out the advisory teaching and learning as well. There's a lot of things that's already been said, so I'm going to skip through those and go through a few that hasn't been said. And that is with the resources being limited this next year, and I'm just going to say thank you to all the teachers who's going to take the inspirational approach and tackle this now, because I know it's going to be hard, and for giving that all 100 whatever percent to really make it work in their best capacity in a tough time. That said, I'm wondering whether or not if we could look into, and I mentioned if there's possibility of looking into maybe pre-existing structures of PBL that we could lean into units, so it cuts some of the workload for our teachers, and also to lean into our community, our parent group, and see if we could get their hands on deck, especially in middle school. That's kind of the awkward time where parents quite don't know, do I get involved in the school? Do I stay out of the school? But this may be a space where we could leverage the parent time, where they're not necessarily in the kids' face, but support the staff. Which brings back to, I know we talked about vibes in the past, so bringing that back. And I wonder if this is the best time to really engage our vibes program and bring it back and lean into our community volunteers who we leaned into before and utilize that in this.
Okay, and then Director Block.
Yeah, thank you for this. Having a high school freshman, I'm recently experienced middle school, and it's a great example of where I think the community's expectations were raised by the reimagining middle school process, and now we're kind of in a position of needing to manage expectations for the implementation, and that's definitely something we need to be thoughtful about. I appreciate that the advisory-based learning is kind of still in a rollout phase. It strikes me that it's focused somewhat on social emotional learning, and that one of the challenges that we've noted in the post-COVID period is the dramatic increase in absenteeism, and that may be a strategic focus that it would be appropriate for us to consider using the ABL to focus on as an initial target. I love the problem-based learning examples you provided. I almost wonder if we're going too big in some cases. I think those are great. But when I think of problem-based learning, it can be as simple as one project within a larger class.
Absolutely.
And I see the value of problem-based learning in two things. One, it creates sparks of, oh, that's how that works. Oh, you get to see failures. So often in classrooms, we see only the successes, and that really doesn't prepare our students for science, where most of what we do is failures. And then we have to figure out why. And that's one part of the problem-based learning to me. And the other part is that it gives us a chance to localize some of these curriculums, where we're often talking about things that are far away or in a very different time period than what's happening today. And some of the problem-based learning we can get back into our community and drop in here and there an individual problem that we're focused on here, whether that's transit and transportation, or why can't we get transit across the I-90 bridge? I mean, these are questions that are practical to kids they can connect with and they can dig into, and we can bring experts in. I will pause there. I do want to mention, just before we go, there are a couple of minor errors in the posted version of the document that we should make sure are resolved going forward, including an unresolved comment.
Oh, I had to say those were resolved on the document.
The version that's posted, I just pulled it up, still has.
Okay, doesn't. All right, we'll resolve that.
Okay,
Okay.
I would like to give
Fix that.
Dr. Aramaki a moment.
Yeah, just I know we're out of time. I just want to make a couple comments, just based on what the board was saying. I do think the potential of project-based learning is pretty amazing. I think for engagement of students, we have a chronic absentee issue problem, which we're going to talk about in the study session. A lot of it is because, I mean, there's a lot of things happening with kids, but some of it is because learning is boring for kids. And so project-based learning has a potential of really like making learning interesting again for kids. However, I think the points are well taken. It has to be done well. Like there's got to be clear learning targets. It's not just about projects, but it's about having clear learning targets and clear outcomes. In addition to that, I think Director Webster, you talked about like there's a whole range of learners. There are a lot of kids who learn really well by themselves. Like they're more introverted. I read the book Quiet, and it talked about how the education system is really pushing towards the extroverted kid.
Yeah.
And what do we do about the kids who are quiet, you know, and who like to learn by themselves and learn best when they're by themselves? And so I think we want to make sure that we have balance and that we have a little bit of both, because whether kids extroverted or introverted, we want them to learn how to engage with each other, tackle problems together, but we also want to make sure that there's spaces for kids to be able to learn individually. And related to that, there's the issue when you do project-based learning, there's always the issue of like individual accountability for learning. So you have a group of 5 kids, sometimes 1 or 2 children take on the load and the rest don't, and then there's an assigned grade. But then are all of the kids learning? And so it takes expert skill. And so I think Dr. Jackson talked about this a lot, but the whole professional development part is very critical. So we don't want to push out so hard that we don't have the capacity to build. So we want to build it out in a smart way, have really good professional learning, as much curriculum support as possible, which is going to be challenging because we have really cut back on our curriculum department. So we're going to rely on teachers in the building to help us build that out. And then the last thing I'll just say about advisory is we are losing a lot of our behavior support staff. We have an issue with student behaviors that the teachers have talked about in the past. Advisory, it is a place where kids can come together, learn to be in community with one another, and we can offer like tier 1 core instruction on how to be a good human being, how to care for one another, how to address microaggressions, all of the things that concern us, we can teach if we have an advisory period. And so we're not going to let that go. We might be delayed a little bit because of kind of our financial situation, but our teachers and our staffs in our schools are trying to find ways to embed that, and we're going to be there to support them as they do that work. So thank you for the presentation today.
Thank you. And I have to say thank you to Big Picture as well for providing resources and tools that helped us think about this at scale.
Oh,
Thank you.
okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. I was going to say, I forgot to give you a moment.
Nope.
But okay.
We're good. Thank you.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Now, let's hope we can zip through. Item number 6, approval of summer meeting dates. Can we show those?
We may
Hopefully
wanna make that
everybody
just a bit
had a
bigger.
chance to sort of look these over.
Yeah, so just to remind the board and the public, we have a policy that requires the board to confirm and review the scheduled summer meetings and approve them at the first meeting in May, so that they're established and clear to the community. So based on your feedback from Monday, the dates that you see before you tonight are a little bit different. The August dates are all the same, but the July dates were the concern. So we are proposing that the last week in July, Monday, July the 28th, be the pre-planning meeting. You have a retreat scheduled for the Tuesday, and then on the Thursday, the regular board meeting would be Thursday, July the 31st, the last day of July.
Okay, so the goal of this memo is to seek approval. So therefore, I would need a motion if anybody agrees with this schedule. All
I
right,
move to approve the schedule as presented and shown on the screen.
Okay.
Second.
Did I hear a second? Yeah. Okay, so would anybody like to discuss this further? Okay, let me call for the vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
I don't hear any opposed, so that motion carries. We have a few weeks window in July to go on vacation.
Yeah, and I would just, yes, and it makes for a busy last week of July. I'll also say, thank you, board. That's crystal clear. The other item on your document on your agenda are the proposed meetings for the rest of the school year for 25-26. And the idea is to get this in front of you, to give you lots of opportunity to take a look at it. And another policy requires you in August to confirm your 25-26 school year meeting. So we'll come back in August and ask for your approval of the 25-26 calendar at that time.
Okay, so thank you for the draft of that. Somehow we seem to have made up time. I don't know how this happened. Okay, now we have a few moments for director discussion. And I guess that's whoever wants to go first. Can we, are we doing like 3 minutes each, I think? Yeah. So does anybody like to lead off? Have anything they'd like to tell everybody? Okay, thank you, Director Ars.
Okay, well, it's been a busy couple weeks. I'm going to have to say thank you to all of our community partners, Rainier Athletes, LifeSpring, our Bellevue Foundation, and all the hard work that they have done for our schools, and as well as raising additional funding to support them in all the different ways that's so incredibly needed. It was, I have to say, some of these events that I unfortunately I was not able to make it to the BSF because I was in Houston with our students, but our students rocked, by the way. I did appreciate being able to attend the ones that I attended. Just want to put a little note on the legislation session. I am so honored to work with our broader community that I had this session, making partnership and really developing a coalition between our district and our 4 neighboring school districts, as well as, at all layers, the PTA, the board, VAs. Okay. Oh, I get 3 minutes now. Anyways, I appreciate all the hard work and the regular meetings that we've come together and stayed really focused. And it was really wonderful to hear from the legislators how focused education system and the community was this year, and that meant that really dictated in the way they moved at the legislative space. And so I think that our intent is to continue to work hard, because obviously needs were not met. And I wanted to give a shout out to everyone who was involved in that hard work, from meetings to showing up and sending emails and sending phone calls and connecting people and on and on. And looking forward to actually continuing to working with them, though we need a little bit of break. The other thing that I want to share is it was brought to my attention that there are some celebrations and also opportunities for if people want to attend more performances. Telecom Middle School is going to sing the national anthem at the Mariners game on the 27th of May. I am not driving to Idaho right now because I think that's where they are right. But TMS Choir is performing music there, but Sammamish High School theater is doing their Drowsy Chaperone this weekend. So if you got some time, go support them. If anyone wants to go with me tomorrow. And which brings to the question of, we have a lot of things to celebrate in our community, and this is one of those opportunities. I know we have a page where we support all these celebrations through our diverse community, but I wonder if we should have a page where we acknowledge all of these amazing things that they're doing biweekly. I know that when we cover it through our social media and their own school does it, but it was also brought to my attention. It's like the board should celebrate more than robotics, which I mentioned. And I do that because I'm engaged and that is what I know. But it'd be great if they would like to share with us, we should also acknowledge those things. And that's it. And nice.
Okay, who's next? Yeah. Okay. All right.
So I'm going to start by recognizing students, as many of them, at least the high school students, are preparing for AP tests, which start next week. A lot of them will be in this room taking AP tests for the next 2 weeks. And so I know that's a very stressful time, but also a very rewarding time and a feeling of relief once they get through those tests. I still remember that. I also want a note of appreciation for all the students who worked hard to contribute to and work towards the Earth Day celebrations that happened in the last week at many of our campuses. Those were great. I know that we heard from the sustainability work group last time, and it was really great to see a lot of that pulled together. I want to reflect a little bit on one of the things Dr. Aramaki mentioned at the outset on the MSOC funding in particular. I believe that the amount that was approved by the legislature is less than we're currently projecting to be the inflation for next year. So while we are seeing additional money, it's actually less than the increase in costs will be, or is projected to be. So that's just important to recognize that what Dr. Aramaki showed us are some absolute numbers. And when we consider inflation, those numbers get smaller or actually become negative in some cases. I also want to reflect just briefly on some of the comments that the Somerset group families have been bringing to us, in that many of the issues that are being raised are also City of Bellevue issues. When we talk about snow routes and plows, sidewalks and traffic management, the city is our partner in working to support all of our community. And I encourage that same group to also go to the city council to make similar advocacy to make sure that the city is providing appropriate support for student safety throughout the city, but in particular in their community. So that's an important thing to consider. Also, reflecting on a lot of things that have been going on lately, there's a risk to listening to podcasts, and sometimes brainworms get stuck in you. But one of the things that I've heard is something I've heard before is, the story of the playground on a cliff, and that the community found that there were consistently children injured at the bottom of the cliff. And so they came together and they had a public meeting and they said, we need to respond to this. We have a certain amount of money to do that. And a proposal came forward. Let's create an ambulance service that's at the bottom of the cliff. We'll be quick to respond to all these injuries. And then another group came forward and said, why don't we just put a fence around the playground so kids don't fall down the cliff? And what that makes me wonder about is, as we think about our cutting back, we need to make sure that we're not eliminating services that lead to student success. And sometimes that can look weird in education. Sometimes we spend money early so that students are successful later. And making sure that we're doing that deliberately. I have confidence that we are thinking about that, but I want to make sure that as we make our decision making, that we're considering the long term and the student success. Because as somebody pointed out, you can spend basically the same amount of money on children being successful in school or not being successful in school, and that's a choice. Thanks.
Okay, then, yeah.
Okay, these 2 past weeks have been quite an experience for me, right? Because I am new in my role, but every day what it centers me is why I am here. And I am here for the kids, the family, and our community. So I spent a lot of time there these 2 past weeks, and we shared some of the same events, but I would like to highlight 3 of them that they just revigorized me. So one of them was the Highland Middle School Computer Science Family Engagement Night. It was so cool. Oh my God! We had more than 400 attendees. That is huge. Everything super well organized with the staff. The staff were super passionate, the families, student volunteers, very well organized. And I was so shocked to know and to see in person how many amazing programs we have. And it's a pity because my son just left Bellevue High School and I missed some of the things. So I will also encourage that we still need to make efforts that every single family knows about the amazing program that we have in our district. I was also very proud that even if I am not the language access coordinator, language access was there. We had tours scheduled for Spanish, for Russian, and for Mandarin, and all fully booked. So kudos for the organization. And the other thing was my first school visit. That was amazing to just to talk with the passionate staff of Lake Hills, talking to the students, talking to the parents. That was wonderful. And knowing that they have a computer science class there. And because I went to the forum of computer science, the family forum, I asked why we only have 3 classes in the entire elementary schools. And well, they told me that they are working on that and they applied for some grants to that to happen. So I want to congratulate to being proactive and trying, even if we are not in the best financial mode, to be proactive and go for grants. Thank you. And my last thing was a little bit a concern because they were talking about a problem about chronic attendance. And I would like to, well, in the future, if we can work together on that.
Okay, and then finally, I guess it's my turn. And I just want to acknowledge that we're in fundraiser season, as was on the slide, Dr. Armaki's slide. And I just wanted to talk about something that really resonated with me at the LifeSpring fundraiser, because I know that I'd been involved with them before. One time I was in that we tried to establish a crossroads circle, but that, didn't really work. But anyway, I met a few times. But what they were talking about is one of their goals is to save families in our district from eviction. And they talked about how it can be the car breaking down and you can't get to work and you need the money for that, so you can't pay the rent, or an unexpected medical bill, or a layoff, or something. And they were saying that, these are working families and sometimes they just need 1 or 2 months rent and they're back on their feet and they're not evicted. And I think that really struck me because when I was a little kid, I watched the next door neighbors that I played with get evicted. The sheriff come to their house and throw all their stuff on the front lawn. And to save any family from that trauma, it is just so meaningful to me. So, and then they also do things around food and clothing and things like that. But, when we talk about our kids in the district that are in trauma, sometimes we don't always know what that means, but this really gave me some insight into what we're talking about. And then on a happier note, I would like to, that's kind of a happy note because we're trying to help people, but on a happier note, I want to talk about the Interlake plant sale, which is going on now. And it was on today, but I had to do this, then I didn't want to get distracted. So, I'll be going over there tomorrow, but I wanted to tell you that last year I bought a bunch of plants and I got a start from them for these little tiny pumpkins that grow on a vine. And I trained them on a trellis up by my kitchen window. And I had months of joy just looking out at the sort of Interlake tiny pumpkins growing and turning orange. So I encourage everybody to support Interlake horticulture. And that's me.
Real quick, I don't have a whole lot, but had a great visit at Lake Hills Elementary. It was really great to hear the kids talk about how they enjoyed computer science and their affinity for their teachers and their staff. And those leaders over there are working really, really hard, to adapt to the changes and the influx of the new kids that are coming into their school buildings. And I just appreciate their dedication to serve each and every student. Very appreciative of all of the fundraising events that have gone on. I think some of us have gone to some and couldn't go to others, but grateful to Bellevue Schools Foundation, LifeSpring, and Rainier Athletes. And because I'm the liaison for Rainier Athletes, I'm going to talk a little bit more about that. They exceeded their goal this year, which was a surprise, and they raised $616,000 because of the generosity of our community and partners. Yeah. And it was just so nice to see so many familiar faces. Board was there, Dr. Aramaki in his space suit. You guys should have seen it. Oh, yeah. I asked him to wear it today. Last year, he was super competitive with the ball challenge, and he got to wear this wonderful crown. Where is that crown? Do you have? Okay. All right. But
bring it out, everyone.
But we got a chance to have some dialogue and engagement with King County Council Member Balducci, our Mayor Lynn Robinson, Deputy Mayor Mo Malakushan, the Medina Mayor, Mayor Rossman, and Councilmember Nunn, and so many others. It was just such a great time, and I always enjoy going there. So, Dr. Aramaki, we'd like to see you in the spacesuit. Yeah, and then that's it. That's it. Thank you.
Oh,
That's such a good
Okay, do you need to say something? Okay. So we are now going to go on a 10-minute break. And then the board will reconvene in a study session in the other room, and we'll be talking about strategic plan, goals, and measures. And then after that, we will have an executive session to review the performance of a public employee, but I will say that again when we get closer.